Welcome back, dear wisdom seekers. As I said in my introductory video, I really want to deal with complex concepts. And for me, one of the most complex concepts is the systemic perspective on wholeness. What does wholeness as a whole mean? And I'm going to take wholeness and I'm going to break it up into tiny to explain principles. Wholeness is the realization that every part of the system, yes, I said every part of the system. Yes, and I will get to the point we will discuss the part that we want and the part that we don't want. But just for now, I just want you to just stay with me. No matter how small or seemingly insignificant, every part is essential to the integrity and functioning of the whole. I'll break it up into little parts just now, because the whole is made up of all little parts. So I will break it up into little parts. From a systemic perspective, wholeness is the understanding that we are all interconnected and that our self-being is intrinsically linked to the well-being of the larger system. Having said this, my development with this understanding started with family constellations. And one of the very first concepts I learned in family constellations is there can be no exclusion. We live in a world where everything is excluded. And why do we exclude people from our lives? What creates those exclusions? And I will go into that in detail. Stay with me on this journey and I will explain it all to you. But when we understand that each and every part is an integral part of the system, what it also says is that when exclusion occurs, then something in the system happens and it needs to realign and readjust itself. But what it does for the individual who is excluded or excludes himself, either way. So let's take it for the individual that's excluded. There is abandonment issues, there's rejection issues, and there is a lot of mental health issues that go with that. For the person who excludes himself for his or her safety, and I'm saying for his or her safety, there are the same issues on those that you exclude yourself from. So that's a really intricate web that we will get to. And that interconnectedness, that entanglement that is then created, we will get to that. But I want to just try and make sense of these difficult concepts. So let's look at the systemic perspective on the wholeness. And I want to just explain a little bit of everything is connected. So as much as we sometimes want to disconnect, trauma disconnects us. We want to disconnect from the experience, but we can't because that experience happened. So we need to find a way to connect differently to that experience. So I want you just to imagine a complex puzzle. And each piece, no matter how small, is essential to the complete picture. Have you ever looked at a puzzle and there's a piece missing? That's fun because you notice it immediately. And that's what I mean by exclusion. That piece of the puzzle that is not there, you notice it immediately. It's almost more pronounced than the rest of the puzzle. And what we try and do is we want to cover it up. So you may want to put in a piece of the puzzle that matches. The colors don't quite match, the texture doesn't quite match. So it never really matches, and you still see it. So the cover-ups then create another part of this complex system. Wow. So this brings to us to understand that in life, we are like those little puzzle pieces. Every person, every experience, and every feeling is connected and important to the whole system. So recently, and I'm going to talk about my experience at the African Stonehenge, and we were at the Stone Circles, which is a complete mind wrap of its own. But our tour guide said something, and it really hit home with me. How often do we use words that disconnect us from other people? And do you know that those words stay in the energy field? And yes, I'm going to talk more about the energy field, but I'm just sort of putting tips into there. So if I understand the responsibility of how I handle my experiences and how I resonate back into the world with my words and my deeds, I wonder if I would be as flippant with my life as I have been, or as we all have been from generations past. So we need to recognize all parts of ourselves. The good parts, the not so good parts, the ugly parts, the pretty parts, the whole parts. So wholeness means acknowledging every part of who we are. Our strengths, our weaknesses, our joys, our sorrows, our successes, and our failures. They're all part of the whole. And when we accept all these parts, we can see ourselves more clearly and compassionately. That's big. Because when we do that, we move beyond the fragmentation. And yes, we live in a really fragmented world. There is so much hurt. There is so much sorrow. There is so much disconnection. There is so much pain and grief. And all that we don't really want to experience. So one of the learning lessons I had when I did the trauma work is I realized how people wanted to disconnect from that experience because it was too painful to look at it. It was too painful to deal with it. And this disconnection from that trauma experience created more and more and more and more disconnection. It created events that ruined people's lives, their own and their families. So this fragmentation is what we deal with in everyday life. So we try to separate or hide our parts of our lives and emotions. I don't want to deal with it. I was told, no, be strong, don't cry. Keep your emotions to yourself. I can't deal with your emotions. You are too much for me, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. Can you see what we do to people? And when we do that, we ignore our sadness. We ignore our downplay and our achievements. And so when I do this to anybody out there, do you know what I'm doing? I am not willing to look at my sadness. I am not willing to look at my pain. I am not willing to look at what goes on inside of me, because I see you in trouble, but I am not going to be in trouble with you. Oh no, you do it on your own. Wow, this is what we do. This is a good world we live in, isn't it? So if we move beyond that fragmentation and acknowledge the wholeness, when we, through the wholeness, encourage and feel encouraged to embrace everything, and understanding that all experiences contribute to our own growth, we might be more welcoming. Because what I have learned, again through my trauma work, is that once I have taken a client through that pain, through that difficult experience, and I've allowed them to look at it and feel it and integrate with it, and all of a sudden something happens. And there's a point where the darkness lifts into the light. And that is why I call myself healing point. It's that point where when we are really looking at that pain, it dissipates. It's like, poof, it goes. And then we see the rainbow colors, and then we see life as sacred again. And I've had that with each and every one of my clients. So I am not fearful of looking at the dark places within myself in order to create more inner harmony. So when we accept and integrate all parts of ourselves, we create a sense of balance and peace within. And this inner harmony allows us to connect more deeply with others and build healthier relationships. When I can acknowledge and I can see your pain, and I can hold your hand and say, it's okay, I'm going to hold your pain. I'm going to go with you through this. Isn't that a better world to live in? Because I'm going to help you heal through this fragmented part of yourself to come into greater wholeness. And that is when we move through healing and integration. So when we embrace the wholeness, which involves healing past our wounds and integrating forgotten or neglected parts of ourselves. Yep, those parts we never wanted to look at, those pains we never wanted to look at, and we need to integrate them back into our lives. And I always used to explain it like this. When we have a cut on our, say, a wound on our body, the healing process, it takes time. But at the end of the day, and it's painful, at the end of the day, there's only a scar left. So you can see the scar, but that scar no longer is painful. Even if you look at it, you cannot remember the pain of the wound that was there before. And that's really what I want to look at and promote in creating this systemic wholeness, so that we can live true and authentically to who we are. So here we're talking about holistic well-being. Wholeness means caring for all aspects of our well-being. The physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual. I am going to put a little bit of a negativity here because it's just one of my observations. A lot of us who are in the healing field work so hard on helping others that we couldn't disconnect from our own wounds. And yes, there is a sense of, oh, I can help you through your wounds, and okay, but we never really take the time to look at our own wounds and heal through our own wounds. We do it for a little bit of time, we do it, and then when it comes up again, there is this, I should have been healed, this shouldn't worry me anymore, so it's okay, I will let it be. So we need to then re-embrace our physical, our emotional, mental, and spiritual. And my body is not well, and that's okay. Because as I am working with my spiritual, my mental, and emotional health, my body is getting better and better. Yes, I have to take extra care of it, but I have to do it in unison. I can't do the one and not the other. It's got to be in unison. So these areas are interconnected. The physical, the emotional, mental, and spiritual are interconnected, and nurturing them leads to a more fulfilling and balanced life. So if I can get my body into more mobility, which I do by doing exercises that I never did before, because my body really struggled with doing these exercises, and the mental health suffered so much because I was so extremely tired from doing those exercises. But can you see how that interlinks? So when I start healing on all areas simultaneously, I have a much better ability to create more and more into a fulfilling and balanced life. And why am I doing it? And why am I encouraging you to do it? Because this impacts on the greater good. When we live from a place of wholeness, we positively impact the world around us. And I can sincerely say that, because I can be miserable and weepy and really, oh, today's not a good day. And then everybody around me struggles. I have to cancel clients. I have to do this. No. If I take care of me and I work on living in a place of wholeness, I know that I positively impact the world around me. And I'm going to encourage you to do the same, which is the reason for the series. So I hope you like what you're hearing. So click the like. And if you want to hear more, just subscribe, and you will not lose out on hearing more. And who knows what I've got up front, because I really want to take people around me and help them to move into this greater wholeness, so that they can be part of the greater good, not just for themselves, but also for all those around them. So, in summary, the systemic perspective on wholeness is about understanding that everything in life is interconnected. And by recognizing and embracing all parts of ourselves, we create inner harmony, heal past wounds, and contribute to a healthier and more connected world. Do you want to be part of that? If so, stay connected, subscribe, and join the journey. I trust you will enjoy it. I am going to enjoy it, and I hope you will enjoy it too. See you next time.